In 1858, a short, stout man in rags, called James Clough, went to the second service at John Ashworth's chapel for the destitute. Mr. Ashworth said, "How this man got amongst us I did not know." Clough earned his living by driving a donkey cart. He was born in Oldham, and then he and his wife Betty came to live in Rochdale with their children, Violet and Thomas. They lived at Sutcliffe's Yard, which was near where Rochdale Infirmary is now, and later at 10 Wilson Street, near Hope Chapel. Clough was a chair maker and then a carter. He was well known as a terrible drunkard and swearer, and he would apparently fight any man his weight, but he went to the chapel for the destitute, and when he heard John Ashworth preach, he came to Jesus and was converted. After a few weeks, Clough started to bring along to the chapel one of his companions in sin, a tall man called James Woolfenden, a stonemason who lived at Spotland Bridge. From then on, the tall man, James Woolfenden, and the short man, James Clough, became regulars at the destitute, to the astonishment of everyone who knew them. James Clough was about 60 years old when he came to Christ. He couldn't read, so he asked John Ashworth to get him a Bible with large print. He said that by God's help he'd learn to read it, and he did. After starting to live for Christ, Clough said he never went into the donkey cote to feed or yoke up his donkey without first going down on his knees in prayer, and he said his donkey felt the benefit because he no longer beat it, and he said it went better without thumping, as he called it. James Woolfenden, the tall man, used to mock and scoff at the Bible, but he later cried over his sins and received God's forgiveness. John Ashworth described his as an astonishing testimony of the power of God's saving grace. After his conversion, Woolfenden walked humbly with God in newness of life for nearly 4 years, up until his death in 1862. Woolfenden was buried at St Clement's Church, Spotland Parish Church, and John Ashworth preached a funeral sermon for him at the chapel for the destitute. After it, his widow Mary and their large family of grown-up children gathered around Mr. Ashworth weeping. Woolfenden's eldest daughter took hold of Mr. Ashworth's hand and said, "Jesus Christ never saved a worse man than my father was. No one knew him as his family did, and you little know what we've had to suffer through him. But for the last 3 years he has been one of the best of men, and with his last breath he blessed God for this place of worship." One day when John Ashworth went to see James Clough, his wife Betty was poorly, and Clough was encouraging her to also turn to Christ. Clough's wife Betty died in 1863. Later on, Clough lived with their son at Vine Place near Rochdale train station, and he worked as a hawker. Clough called the chapel for the destitute his spiritual birthplace. The last time he went there, he had been suffering from bronchitis for some weeks and was quite exhausted. He was also blind and was led into the chapel by a little child, where he sat down beside one of his old companions in sin, Nathaniel Kershaw, also known as Old Niff. When the opening hymn, "All Hail the Power of Jesus' Name," was being sung, Clough's sightless eyes were filled with tears of thankfulness to God, and his heart could only find vent in sobs. 78-year-old James Clough died in Rochdale in 1877. John Ashworth wrote about Clough and Woolfenden in one of his strange tales, My New Friends, as examples of how his work among the poor of the town had been truly blessed by the wonderful mercy and goodness of God.